Thank
on
you.
Independent Research Ethics Society's 438th milestone. It's a really milestone due to your cooperation and support. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Today is World Photography Day as well as second day of Janmashtami. Happy Janmashtami to all today also. Yesterday also we celebrated the topic on Janmashtami. So happy Janmashtami to all participants. Thank you for joining. And today is World Photography Day. So we have this unique subject and as well as unique experts also for the same subject. Madam Sayanika Borah and Mr. Jyotish Datta ji will guide us on concept of photography, and we will plan that how that those concepts can be utilized with Ayurveda or Ayush. So without wasting much time, I would like to welcome Professor Vishnu Prasad Sharma ji, Professor V.K. Agnihotri sir, Professor C.V. Jha sir, Dr. Sayanika Borah, Sachin Avasti ji, Jagdishwar ji, and Mr. Jyotish Datta, our speaker of the day. Thank you. Two speakers are there. Now I would like to request Professor Vishnu Prasad Sharma ji for his welcome address.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar. Good evening to everybody. Respected Professor C.V. Jha, respected Professor V.K. Agnihotri, respected Pawan Kumar Sharma ji, distinguished guests, eminent speaker, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all of you to this evening webinar on unique photography. Today we have two eminent speakers, Dr. Sayanika Borah, Professor, Assam Agriculture University, JORHAT, and Mr. Jyotish Datta, guest faculty, Chief Sagar Commerce College, JORHAT. So I welcome all the eminent speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to this evening webinar on unique photography. Once again, I welcome all of you. Thank you. Over to Pawanji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Now for initial words, now I would like to request Dr. C.V. Jha sir. Welcome, sir.
नमस्कार सभी लोगों को
प्रणाम सर.
और जन्माष्टमी की खूब खूब बधाई। और आज विश्व यूनिक फोटोग्राफी दिवस है और उसी विषय पर आज का वेबिनार भी रखा गया है। तो बहुत ज़्यादा तो फोटोग्राफी के बारे में कह सकूं ऐसा नहीं, लेकिन फोटो और फोटोग्राफी तो आज चाहे कोई भी क्षेत्र हो, विषय को प्रस्तुत करने के लिए जो माध्यम है लिख करके और फोटो के माध्यम से, तो फोटो का महत्व तो समझ में आता है कि कितना है। चाहे क्षेत्र कोई भी हो, उसमें आयुर्वेद का क्षेत्र हो या और कोई भी क्षेत्र हो, हर क्षेत्र में इसका अपना महत्व है। और बिना फोटोग्राफी के और फोटोग्राफी के माध्यम से विषय की प्रस्तुति के जो उसमें एक जीवंतता आती है विषय की,
So now I would like to request Dr. Sayanika Borah from JORHAT. She will guide us on photography, its concept. She is from JORHAT and leading
के लिए आग्रह करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
this. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Sayanika Borah, please. Welcome. Welcome, madam.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Namaste. And today is the Janmashtami also. So happy Janmashtami to all. And I would actually, today I would like to give the basic concept or fundamental concept of photography. What are the different principles and what are the things we should keep in mind when we take any photographs. This is very basic things and how it's related to Ayurveda, or it is the rule of photography in Ayurveda. All those things I want to discuss with you. So I want to share my screen. So is it visible? My screen is visible to all. Is it
Not
visible,
yet.
sir?
Ma'am, you can make this a presentable mode
Okay, okay, no problem.
for full screen.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Quite fine, quite fine.
Sorry. Okay. Basics of digital photography. We all like to take photographs because we like to capture our memories for the future. So everyone like to take photographs, but different types of photographs. Earlier we take photo in photography, but today is the era of digital technology. So now the digital photographs is more popular. So my topic is basic or fundamentals of digital photography. On the occasion of World Photography Day, today is the 19th August. So a happy Photography Day to all. So actually photo is not just capturing a moment matters, but the quality of the photo matters too. The theme of the World Photography Day in 2022 is Pandemic Lockdown Through the Lens. This is the theme of this year. And to celebrate this art type, World Photography Day is observed on August 19 every year. So the day gives tribute to the art of photography and also gives encouragement to the people who are also passionate about the same. It also gives motivation to people to pursue a career in photography, because through the photograph we can disseminate our idea, our interest to the other people. So photography is actually during these days, photography is more important in every event, even for example wedding photography, event photography also. So this photography is also take as a career for the future, for the youth generation. In France, the French Academy of Science officially announced its invention of the daguerreotype in 1839 on 19 August to the public. So it is the history of World Photography Day. From 1839, it was celebrated in 19 August. Later on, the day began to mark as a World Photography Day. So we always actually want to know what is the actually first photograph. This is the first photograph. The title of the photo is View from the Window at Lee Grass, which was taken by Joseph Nasfor Nipsey, who he was actually inventor of the photography process. So this is the first photo with people. So if you notice that actually these are the human figure. In these photos, the figure actually main subject is not actually human being, but in the picture First time it was captured human body, so a human figure. So this is the first photo with considered as the first photo with the people, which was taken by Louis Daguerre, who is the inventor of daguerreotype. This is actually daguerreotype is the process of taking photographs. It's the first actually when camera start, this photography process is start, and this process is known as actually daguerreotype, and which was invented by Louis Daguerre, and he was taking this photo. When actually color is introduced to the photography film, then this is the first photograph of color. Next, what is actually photography? Photography is the art, application, and the practice of creating durable image by recording light, either electronically by means of an image sensor or chemically by means of a light-sensitive material such as photographic film. Photography actually, earlier we always actually used to take photographs in photographic film. Now in digital photography, we use this photographs in digital device or digital medium. Photography comes from the Greek word. It's photos, which means light, and graphy means drawing. Together, it means the drawing with light is actually photography. Digital photography. Digital photography is the process of using electronic and computing appliances to capture, create, edit, and share digital images or photographs. Yes, with the help of actually digital technology, we can edit photo also. Earlier, when we used the photographic film, there is no option for editing. But now it's a great advantage of digital technology. Whatever we capture, we can edit according to our choice. Means in case of size, in case of actually, we can crop the image, we can give light to the image, even we can give frame, lots of things, lots of our editing we can done with the help of digital image or digital devices. So camera, it's an each part. We all know the camera. First, actually, this is the main parts of the camera. One is lens. Second one is the mirror. Third one is focusing screen. Fourth one is pentaprism. Fifth is viewfinder, through which we can see the subject. Next one is the shutter. Sixth one is the shutter. It's control the shutter speed when we capture the image. And another 7 is the photographic film. This is the camera, not actually digital camera. Next, this is the parts of the digital camera. Only difference is that there is no photographic film. Instead of that, the digital capture actually lenses are there. So this is switch. These are the just I see the picture and the identification of these different parts. We all know everything. This is the flash, and the flash button is there. Focus mode is here, and lens this, and another is the control dial. This one, shutter button. This one. Power switch, main power switch here. This is the mode switch. We can change the mode of the photography when we take in the highlight exposure, and even we take the photographs in the dark or the night, we can change the mode to the night mode. So these are the facilities available in the digital camera. So same also, these are the parts. This is the front side of the camera. These are the back side. Also, this is the LCD display. This is the LCD display which actually we capture in the actually the subject which is visible in this area. So according to this display, we can choose the correct actual position of the camera, and we take photograph with the help of this display. The headings is not the important actually camera settings are there. Being able to capture the great visual requires a little bit of an introduction to the 3 most basic camera setting. First is the aperture, ISO, and the shutter speed. These are actually technological terms. Aperture through which light can enter to the camera. ISO is the how much light they allow to camera allow to enter to the sensor is ISO, and the shutter speed which can control the taking photo in the speed, shutter speed. Actually, when we take a photographs of a moving object, then we can take with the help of shutter speed. When we in the high shutter speed, we can give the exact photo of a moving object also. Otherwise, in the lower shutter speed, the subject moving object or the subject is actually blurry vision. So with the help of high shutter speed, we can take the actual moment of this moving object. This is the basic element of photography setting. So first is the line. Yes, it can be vertical, horizontal, and curved or jagged. Example: road, sunset, bridge, etc. There are some principles when taking a photography. Suppose I am interested to take a landscape photograph. So in that time, always we use these photographs in the line. We should maintain the line. Suppose there is a mountain and the valley, so we can put the camera in that position that there is not equal, means line should not be in the middle portion in the photo. So it may be land portion is more, otherwise the hill portion is more. These are the things we can follow when take photographs, that the photographs will be more beautiful. Another is the shape, two-dimensional representation of the object. Example: solitude photographs of the birds. Suppose I want to take one photographs of the birds in the dark, and or the high exposure of the background or the highlights in the background, then we can use these photographs, and we can maintain the shape of these things, so the photographs will be beautiful. Another is the form is also important. Three-dimensional representation of the object, usually through the use of lighting and the shadow, we can create forms. And texture is also very important in photography. The use of lighting to bring out details of an object, making it easy to see whether a surface is smooth or soft. If we take photographs in the very correct mode, then we see the photographs and we can say that the surface of this particular subject is smooth or rough, means that we can know the texture of the photo. Next is the pattern. The use of repetition to create an interesting photo is the pattern. So photos of gardens or flower, this actually maintain the principle of pattern. Next is the color. Using warm or cool color to get a mood. So when we take a photographs color, we should actually concern about the colors, because if the more shades are there in the photographs, then photographs will be more beautiful. Suppose, for example, in a photographs there are the sunset of evening sunset photo. So there are different, sometimes there are different color mood. Suppose the dark portion is also there, dark yellow is there. So color is also important. Like that, space is also very important. Either negative or positive space can be used for make a statement. First, space is sometimes unwanted space is there in the photographs. So this space always we try to, this is known as actually negative space. So always we try to minimize this negative space. What is actually good photographs? When we actually think about photography, then come to our mind that what is actually good photography. All the elements, already I mentioned in the earlier slides, all the elements in the photography that come together to make an image and considered good. All elements are work well together to add interest and a great deal of composition in photographs. So this is actually good photograph. So what is a bad photograph? we actually cannot, this picture I put here, we cannot say this is bad photo, not good photo. But if we technically evaluate these photographs, then it is actually not a good photo. Why? There are two ways that a blurry photographs can be downfall. The main way is the whole photo is out of the focus. Second, a shaky hand and automatic focus struggling with subject matter, a manual focus that is a bit off, regardless of why the image is out of focus. If it is blurry, it is not good. If you notice these photographs, this photograph is blurry. The background, if background is blurry, this is okay, but main subject is blurry, so it is not considered as a good photograph. How we can make the photographs good? First, if it is the sharp with good tonal range. Next one is the good contrast between the shadow and the highlights, and focus correctly on the right part of the screen, then it is good photographs. So in these photographs, we can consider as a good photograph, it's served, and another is the shadow and the highlights are maintained here. Focus is also very clear, so we can consider it as a good photographs. Sorry. What are the different? My actually skin is not visible for me, the whole skin. So sorry. The heading is visible for all. In the slides, headings is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, principles of
Yes,
photography.
it clearly.
In my laptop, actually, all the icons are upper to the heading, so I'm not able to recognize the heading.
It's very clear pattern, balance, negative space.
This is
grouping,
okay, but
these
heading
are-
is not visible for me. So okay. It's okay. It's a pattern, balance, negative space. I already expressed about the negative space, grouping, closer, color, and the light and shadow. This is also the example of the grouping and balance, pattern, darkness, everything. I want to try to just give to one photograph of one example. Next is the criteria for good photography. For the good photography, first is the composition. Clear subject is in photo, good positioning, frame correctly, no distracting element that could be avoided in the photo. If the subject is in the center or subject is clear and good position, subject is clearness is depend upon the position of the camera also. So composition is very important. Second is contrast, color. Good use of color and contrast of light to dark to set the mood or make the subject stand out. Next, creativity. Always actually creativity is very, very necessary in photographs. Same location, suppose same camera brand, two different people take photographs, the photographs may not be the same. So it's depend upon the creativity, position of taking the camera, the shutter speed and the light, everything depends on the photo. Based on these things, the photo will be good or bad. It will be depends on all the factors. Next is lightening. Use of light properly, not too light or too dark. Adds interest to the subject. We should put the light to suppose the subject or center of attraction, and we can make the darkness around the subject. So in that photo, the subject get more emphasis. So finishing, photo should be neatly matted and mounted. And focus, image should not be fuzzy and pixel and too evident. And focus should be always clear. So these are the terminology. I already use different terminology like aperture, depth of field, shutter speed, like that. For photographic interested people, they know everything. But who are not directly related to photography, this terminology is not actually common for them. So I just try to give few important terminology here. This is the aperture, the part of the camera that opens to let light in. Through this apparatus, light enter to the camera. The f-stop or the f-focus number is the measurement of how open or closed the aperture, how much light they entered into the camera. This is aperture. And next is the depth of field. The difference between the closest and the furthest in focus object in a photo. A shallow depth is the field means the relatively close background of object become blurry. A deep depth of field means that far away background objects are still in focus. Sometimes we see some photo, suppose in the Taj Mahal. In front of the Taj Mahal, I want to take one, suppose, photographs. In that case, our emphasis should be given on sometimes in Taj Mahal and sometimes in the subject. Suppose I want to give emphasis on the Taj Mahal, which is far away from the subject, means me. So that case, we can adjust the depth of field. So in that case, the Taj Mahal pictures photo is more clear than the object which is in front of this, even which is closer to the lens, but it will be blurry. This we can maintain all those things with the depth of field. This dynamic range. The difference between the darkest and the lightest tone in the image, the range of dark and light that the camera is capable of. Darkest and the lightest hue are very rarely for black and pure white. Cameras usually have a lower dynamic range than the human eye. So human eye can more dynamic eyes to capture all the color very distinctly. Exposure triangle. The combination is aperture, ISO, and the shutter speed. These three things are very important in photography, which determines the time and intensity of light being let into the camera. Different exposure in film and digital images alike are achieved by adjusting this exposure setting. So another is the focal length. The distance usually measured in millimeters between the optical center of the camera lens and the camera sensor, which sometimes is called the image sensor, which is known as actually focal length. F-stops is focus stop. The size of the aperture opening. We already discussed about what is aperture through which light can enter to the camera. The size of the aperture opening, also known as the F number. It means how much this aperture open, then they allow the light to enter into the sensor. A small F number means the aperture is more open more. A larger F number means it open less. But the effect is different. For example, F1 let in much more light than F6. Actually, we think that the F1 is less, F6 is higher. So F6 is maybe the allow to enter more light, but not. F1 lets it much more light than F6. So ISO, how sensitive the camera is to light is ISO. A higher ISO will be more sensitive and photo will generally be brighter. A lower ISO is less so than term used to apply the film, but in the digital era, it is now in the camera setting. Okay, everything in the camera setting. We can just adjust this button for this means ISO higher and make it lower. We can just only on the camera, buttons. And another is shutter speed. How long the camera shutter is open and the sensor inside are exposed to light is shutter speed. Very high shutter speeds are used to things like capturing a moving subject without blur. When we take any moving subject, I already mentioned it, the photo will be blurred. But when we actually use this shutter speed in high, so that case we actually get the clear picture of a moving subject. Low shutter speed, for example, are often used for nighttime photography or by landscape photography, which benefit from more light entering the camera during the longer shutter duration. And a few mistakes in photography. First one is centering everything in your image. When we actually don't want to know the many terminology, many technical things, but these are the things we should know, because always we try to get a good photographs. So we should take in this know this main things, what actually mistakes we done in when we take photographs. First is centering everything in your image. If you notice this image, everything not the center of focus. Everything is means all the images we can get emphasis in everything. So there is center of attraction, nothing center of attraction is there. So it is a mistake of taking photographs. Taking attention away from the main focus in the image. When we actually take particular subject in the photographs, then we should take the full attention to the particular subject, not taking attention away from the main focus. Another mistake is cutting things off at the edge of frame. If you notice these photographs, the first thing is this toe is not missing, is here missing, because complete photographs is not here. Another is it is in the of negative space here. So this type of mistake we should not do in the photographs. Another is thinking that having a great camera is enough. Sometimes now the digital camera is very costly because all the facilities, all the automatic mode is there. So if I have a good camera or costly camera, it does not mean that we get good photographs. So we should not think that the camera is only enough. We should know the photography skill is actually more important. Not looking behind your subject. When we take a photograph, suppose I am not looking, not actually give attention to the background, behind that photographs will be not good. First, this is the look behind your subject and make sure that are not things like trees coming out on their heads. ये फोटो में क्या हुआ, ये बैक साइड में ब्लैक सेम कलर का ये हो गया, hair and the trees same color. There should not be distinct line in between the photo. But if we just change the angle of the camera, this photograph is so nice because it is background is so means clear and distinct features are here. So slight we can change the just slight changing the position is take a good photo. Not forgetting to check the setting you use the last time. Yes, when we take photo, we have actually before that we have to check all the settings are actually perfect or not. And it is sometimes we people just take camera and most actually important, sometimes important even we capture with the bad setting, then we take should not take actually this type of photo because it will not give a good photographs, and this moment and this event actually will not come again. So before that we have to check all the setting of the camera, not asking for help. Okay, sometimes we actually not actually know about each and A to Z about photography. Sometimes we need help from the friends and an expert also. When we need to take help, always we try to ask someone. Otherwise, it is a mistake of the photography. Actually, some people actually don't know actually some technical things in photography and take this photography with the help of that knowledge, then definitely we will not come good photo. So this is also one mistake. We can share all those things with our friend, expert, and even in internet everything is available, so we can take help of this internet also. Never turning the camera vertically. Sometimes some people have an idea or the concept that always we take photographs in landscape mode. Okay, but it is not correct. This is to photograph, this is in landscape mode, and it's the take photographs, it's a vertical line with the camera. So sometimes in vertical photographs also give the very nice look. So it is not fixed that always we take landscape or all those things in landscape. These are the actually mistakes in photography. Now the types of photography. Main photography divided into 3 types. First one is nature photography. Second is people photography. Third is man-made photography. First is nature photography. Under the nature photography, these are included. First is the landscape. Landscape, when we try to capture any landscape, any natural scenery, everything under this landscape. Under next one is wildlife photography. Third in macro photography, when we actually try to capture the insect and different leaves or the different photography which is not bigger, which is not micro even, which is macro, known as macro photography. So underwater photography, astrophotography, who are interested to taking photographs of the moon, stars, and the night sky. And another is aerial photography, which is now we can use the drone in used to take aerial photography, and scientific photography. These are all those things under natural photography. Second one is people photography. First one is portrait. Portrait is very common in people photography where human figures are there. Next, wedding photography. It is now very common in all the places. People spend lots of money in wedding and they want to capture all those moments for the future generation. So wedding photography also very popular. Third one is documentary. And fourth, sports photography. And fashion photography also very popular during this time. Commercial photography, when we for the advertisement and other things we can use to take photographs, and then it is commercial photography. Street photography, and last one is the event photography. Any event when we take photograph is event photography. Last one is man-made photography. First is the product photography. Every product, actually now the everywhere we see the photo. When you actually go to the shop for buying anything, then we get one leaflet for fridge, TV, everything. Then all the pictures are there in the leaflet or the booklet, so we can go through the whole booklet and we know about the product. So this product photography also very important, because how they present the product in front of the customer, how attractively they take the picture is very important. Another is the food photography. Yes, food bloggers always use this photography because they prepare food and take photographs of very attractive photographs of these foods and make the blogs on that. Otherwise, even restaurants menus, when we see the photographs based on the photo also, photo only we can order the product, means order the this. So in that case, if we see the attractive photographs, then always we interested to try to eat this food. So this food photography also man-made photography. And still life photography also photography, when we picture any still life object, it is still life photography. And architecture photography, we all know about architecture photography. These are only man-made photography. So wildlife photography, why among all those things I actually mention wildlife photography? Because wildlife photography related to your Ayurveda or all those things, because wildlife photography is a a genre of photography concerned with the documenting various forms of wildlife in their natural habitat. Wildlife means not only the animals and birds and insects, also even different herbs, different very rare trees, rare weeds, everything we can capture through the in the wildlife photography. Which things are available in the wild place, then everything is under wildlife photography. So for wildlife photography requiring photography skill, wildlife photographer may need the field craft skill, because it's it's dangerous also sometimes, because I have experience. Later I will share with you. And first it is not very easy just go, because this is wildlife, everything is natural. They are not this type of subject. They are only stand there, you take photographs, because they are the natural, they living their natural life, they are moving things. So suppose animals, insects, etc., you find these things and you can take the picture in the very perfect way, so that people can see the picture and identify the particular object. For example, some animals are difficult to approach, and thus a knowledge of the animal's behavior is needed in order to be able to predict its action. This is also sometimes it's dangerous also. But photographing some species may require taking skills or the use of the hide behind the concealments. These are the wildlife photography. Wildlife photography requires special equipment such as macro lens for insect, long focal length lenses for birds, and underwater cameras for the marine life. So these are the special equipment is required for wildlife photography. However, a great wildlife photograph can also be the result of being in the right place at the right time, and often involve a good understanding of animal behavior in order to anticipate interesting situation to capture in photography. Macro photography, one of the most accessible type of photography in macro, the art of capturing small creatures and object that we ordinarily overlook. Sometimes macro photography is usually associated with images or bugs and flowers, but even subject like snowflakes and water droplets in the studio can make for imaging macro photos. So a related style of photography is simply close-up photography, which might not be as magnified as true macro work, but still isolates a small slice of the world that otherwise may not stand out. Is about the macro photography. This is a macro photography also. This is one creator. So it is very distinct in this photography. So macro photo, sorry. There are some classic genres that macro photographers come back to again and again. Insects are the perfect example. They are tiny, and a great macro image of an insect takes the viewer into the entirely different universe. So these are actually, we captured this picture. These pictures are actually our own picture. This picture are captured in a given sanctuary here, in our wildlife sanctuary in JORHAT district of Assam. So we took all those photographs in given sanctuary. It is actually, there is actually large biodiversity is there, lots of insect, lots of different type of plants are also there. So these are the photographs of we captured in this wildlife sanctuary. These are the photos. These are the explain. This is my photo, and this guy is actually Jyotish Datta, one of the photographer. We organized one workshop for these students who are interested in photographs. So this is actually given which is famous for the gibbon. This is situated in the JORHAT district. Identification of some actually a medicinal plant in Ayurveda by image processing. This is related to your things. Identification of the correct medicinal plant that goes into the preparation for the medicine is very important in Ayurvedic medicinal industry. So for that purpose, we all people should know what are the plant used for medicinal purpose. But sometimes we don't know actually, we cannot identify those plants and which was actually available in our surrounding. For that purpose, photographs actually play a great role. So the main features required to identify a medicinal plant in its leaf, shape, color, and texture. And color and texture from both sides of the leaf contain deterministic parameters of identifying these species. So a database of medicinal plant leaves is created from scan image of front and back side of leaves of commonly used Ayurvedic medicinal plants. So the leaves are classified based on their unique features combination. So from the research, it was found that for the base photograph, the identification rate up to 99% have been obtained when tested over a wide spectrum of classifier. So in this point, photography plays a great role. So suppose, for example, these are the medicinal plant, which is mentioned there, lemon balm, aloe vera, etc. Here is the clear picture there. If we actually see the picture, then we can identify which plant is this. So based on the photograph, actually, we can identify, suppose I am also not related to medicinal plant, but if we want to see that, yes, lemon, peppermint is all know, lavender is very useful for some disease, but we don't know which is actually lavender. So see the photographs, we just go to the internet and just click lavender image, then lots of images are coming out. From that we can able to identify the particular plant. For this purpose, actually photography has a great actually role to, if we take the photographs in the every angle in the very correct manner, so definitely we can identify the things, correct things in correct way. These are also a different actually Ayurvedic plant, photographs of the Ayurvedic plant. This is very, very clear. So thank you everyone. This is my very short presentation about the basics of photography. So
Thank you very much, madam. You have various excellent. Agnihotri sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Agnihotri sir.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Namaste.
Thanks a lot to Dr. Sayanika Borah, ma'am. Really,
Yes.
you recapitulated my so many memories with your so nice presentation. The basic fact is this, that you touched all the areas and sectors and also made so many doubts very clear while a person is interested to go for photography. Because
yes.
you told about the background, the light concentration, apart from the instrumental approach, which is always there. Now it is so updated that you have to do nothing. It was a slogan that you push the button, we will do the rest.
Yes.
I do remember it was say 10 or 20 years back. You push the button, we will do the rest. Means auto adjustment, autofocal length, auto adjustment, focusing, everything. The photographer is going to do nothing, keep on shooting. But what my background is, which for which I appreciated a lot your presentation today, is that I did my diploma in photography from BHU, from Hobby Center. And I do remember that Mr. Borah was there, who was our teacher. So the moment I talked to you, I don't know whether his spelling was B-O-R-A or R-A-H or not, but he taught me way back in 1980. And
Yes.
You see what he taught, ASA and DIN. In those days, that was the film reel, which used to
Yes.
be. And our inclination towards the say photography is this: that when my elder brother got first scholarship, he purchased the click third camera, the easiest camera available in those days. And by that, I completed my mother's 4 pilgrimages, Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri, Yamutri, all photography. I was with him as a son, as a financier, as a photographer, as a helper, everything, as a doctor. So since then, I have got a great affinity towards photography. And since then, you see, till date, it is a digital era, and the total development, how the film is developed,
Yes.
that was the crisis time, how it was a tough time. It is nothing today. So he was telling what is shutter speed, what is focal length, and all that. And in those days, he taught that now such type of cameras are invented where you can have the 1/1000 second shutter speed for shooting the flying birds. I'm just remembering a 40 years back information that 1/1000 second shutter speed has come in a camera, and they are capturing the flying birds and everything. So it's a great information of your presentation, and I am really fond of photography. And it's still just now today during this Dadi Handi program of Janmashtami, I just taken away my daughter's son and have a good photography regarding this all this videography and photography. So thank you a lot. You touched so many things, and you also highlighted that what object you are going to shoot. For that, you can flare the background. You are supposed to take a concentration and focus in such a manner that object should be in center.
Yes.
And lights must be there on the towards its own face, so that it will be a good photography.
Yes.
And you also put some examples that how it is blurred. So it is my data also used to put on that, don't take the blurred photograph. So
Yes,
so I thought a wonderful thing, and now we are going to have the other information from our second speaker. So thank you, and remain in our contact. You have touched the Ayurvedic section, herbs section. We have got the Kritika and Rasu. During my thesis also, we used to have simply black and white plates from the Kritika and Rasu. Now it's a changed era. So you please remain with us in our platform, in our webinar series, so that we can be having a more and more information from you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Sir, I have an experience on actually this Ayurvedic things. I was joining an international conference in Bangkok in 2019. So that time I presented the paper, the indigenous technological knowledge on medicinal plants used in remedies for different ailments. Okay, so that time when we put all those things, scientific name, botanical name, and even local name also, but if we not put any pictures and photographs of the particular things, particular plant, they cannot identify the particular. Yes, but people not remember all those scientific names and botanical names of all the plant. So that time actually I took lots of photographs of all those mint, everything, aloe vera, all those things, not from internet because copyright also there, and Aparajita, Rajani, all those things we take photographs very carefully. And after when we presented all the photographs in my slides, it was very attractive and people appreciated those photographs in that way. So I remember those days. Yes, now I want to actually relate those things, photography in Ayurvedic. I am not this type of field. I am from extension and communication management, but just I try to relate to this photography with Ayurveda. So I want this example for myself. Okay, thank you so much.
Ma'am, you are very correct. You just highlighted that point. If at all we are not having the names along with their photographs of the herb, very naturally it will be of no use. So Ayurveda, it has got a wonderful scope for you. We are always in need of certain type of herbs, their plants, their usable parts, because all the manufacturers, factories and all that, they are repeatedly having so many types of the pamphlets, the information voucher and all that. Even our thesis work is always going on throughout India, throughout world, in different MD and PhD scholars level. and wherever they use the herbal plants and everything, your photography is will always be needed. So you please do and go further in this
It
field.
will be my pleasure, sir. I thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contact with you and give my ideas, just discuss with you.
Just please
Thank
put
you,
your
thank you.
details, your number and your ID number. You please put. Thank you, and we will again contact you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar. Over to Pawan Sharma ji.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now I would like to request Mr. Jyotish ji. Jyotish Datta ji is guest faculty at Shivsagar and professional photographer recommended by Dr. Sayanika ji. Welcome. Welcome, Jyotish ji. Welcome. Swagatam on this platform.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present my topic in front of you. And to be honest, Vineet sir, I'm a bit nervous to present in front of you. You are a diploma in photography, and it makes me very nervous. So please pardon me if I go wrong somewhere.
Not like that. Not like that. It is a pleasure that I am getting my information updated. It is a 1980. 40 years back. You please, you are talking of the digital era, and I was talking of the this developers era. We were getting our reels developed in the dark room. You are in a front room player. I was the dark room player, sir.
But sir,
Okay.
darkroom techniques were very interesting. Actually, I got hooked into photography because of the darkroom process. My father was a photographer. We had a darkroom in our studio, and my thing was I was more interested in the darkroom process rather than clicking pictures. So that is how my interest in photography grew. And later on,
go ahead, no problem. No, don't be nervous. Go ahead, please go ahead.
Okay, let me share my screen with you, sir. So today I'll be presenting on the topic of composition in photography. Composition itself is a very wide topic, and I'll be touching some important concepts which we use nowadays. Before we start, I'd like to tell you that these are techniques which I use personally. These are techniques I use. I'm a wedding and product photographer, and I also double up as a wildlife rescue photographer. So these are the techniques of compositions which I find very handy while in the field. So without any further ado, we'll start this presentation. And so if there's any doubt, you can always interrupt me. There's no issues at all. I'm going to need a lot of help from you, because composition is a topic which is better understood when everybody participates. So let's start with a definition. What is composition in photography? I'm very inspired by a American photographer called Edward Weston, and his words are, good composition is merely the strongest way of seeing. And Edward Weston is actually a photographer who would find very unique photos of very simple household products. His famous photographs are that of two peppers. So in case you Google later on Google, you'll see his photographs. Very unique way of seeing. So when we point our cameras towards a scene, whatever we see comprise of the positive space and the negative space. So positive space is defined as the subject where we focus, and the negative space is defined as the foreground and the background that surrounds our subject. So composition is an optimal arrangement of the positive and negative spaces. Or you can also call the various positive and negative spaces as elements. So it is again that arrangement of elements in that scene. And most importantly, As a photographer, composition involves a process where you decide, where the photographer decides which element to include and which element to exclude from the scene. So say you are in a very scenic location, and there's a lot of mountainscapes in front of you, a lot of green trees, and you're about to photograph that scene. And in the foreground, you find a packet of plastic chips that has been thrown by a tourist. So there you have to make that decision whether to include that plastic chips packet or not. If you include that, it will not be in harmony with the elements that you see, the natural elements. And if you exclude it, then the elements would be in harmony. So it is a subjective thing which would vary from photographer to photographer, from person to person. So why is composition important? Before we answer this, I'm going to share with you some very fun facts. As per a survey, as per research, 1.7 trillion photos are taken every year. This is as of 2022, and it is said that by 2030, this number would be crossing 2 trillion photos per year. So that is a lot of photos taken in 1 year. Another fun fact is Facebook. In Facebook, 350 million photos are uploaded every day. And in Instagram, 95 million photos are uploaded every day. We have not even included what is shared on WhatsApp or what is shared on Twitter and other social media. But this is a very staggering amount of photos that is being shared on the social media. And this is a very interesting analytics from the company Meta, which owns Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram. They say that an average attention span of a user is 2 seconds for desktop users and 1.2 seconds for mobile users. So we have less than 2 seconds to make an impact on our audience. In other words, our thumb speeds are increasing at a very alarming rate. If you don't like the picture, we just flick to the next picture. So this fact, where we have less than 2 seconds to make an impact, makes composition, the study of composition, very important to all of us. So let's answer this question. Why is photography important? Photography, I use photography to direct, I use composition in photography to direct the viewer to the important parts of my picture. That way I can ensure that my audience is seeing what I want them to see. So basically, I am using composition to create a visual anchor, a subject and an anchor that will, keep my subject for more than, that would keep the audience for more than 2 seconds on my photograph. Composition is also a method to ensure harmony among the various elements. By harmony, what I mean to say is all elements should belong there. If there's an element which does not belong there, should not be included in the composition. And finally, good composition leads to very aesthetically pleasing images. There are other variables that may affect a photograph. These are the technical qualities of a picture. Suppose your lighting decisions have gone wrong, or you have underexposed or overexposed the picture, then even a good quality, even a good composition may not save the photo. A lot depends on where you focus and the kind of depth of field that you use. Depth of field is basically the zone of acceptable focus. Now, if I'm shooting portraits and if there's a very chaotic background, I would keep the depth of field very low so that my subject is in focus and I'm able to exclude the chaotic background. Similarly, equipments also matter. The kind of equipments that I'm using, the kind of lenses I'm using, depending on the subject. Now, for if I'm shooting wildlife in very low light, then I would need equipments which is capable of handling low light situations. Another variable which affects the success of a photograph is just choice of subjects and how it relates to the audience. The impact of a photograph will create depends a lot on the subjects being photographed. For example, if I'm shooting wildlife and I share it on a platform which is more fashion oriented, then my photograph will not have that impact. So if I'm shooting wildlife, I would be sharing on a platform which is inclined to wildlife conservation and wildlife photography. And narrative, and narrative is also another important variable that will affect the success of a picture. Narrative is how you present your picture. Like your story may be a single photograph or a bunch of photographs that makes a photo story or a photo essay. So narrative would vary from photograph to photograph. Normally, what you see is photographs would ask you a question and then will provide you an answer. There's another narrative where a shot is shown to you and an opinion is suggested to you. And there's again another narrative where you let the audience decide what they want to make out of that photograph. So all these three narratives would have all these three ways of narrating a story would have a different impact on the audience. I guess the most successful way of narrating a story is the question answer method. If you look at how we have been brought up since childhood, we have been brought up in an environment where we are asked a question and then we are told an answer. Just for example, do you remember Twinkle Twinkle Little Star? It starts with a question. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, how I wonder what you are. It starts with a question and then there's an answer, like diamonds in the sky. So right from nursery rhymes to our master degrees, we are given a question answer format of narrative. And then so do you remember the National Egg Coordination Committee ad, which made a very good ad on eating eggs every day? Sunday hoya Monday, roj khao ande. That is the narrative that they put, and then they went about discussing, showing us why you should eat an egg a day. So these are the various kinds of the various ways you can narrate a story. So the narrative, the way you narrate would be different. So ideally, when you put up a picture, you should have some text associated with it. Text is what we call the caption or the cut line in pure photojournalistic terms. So without a caption or a text, the audience may not get what you're saying or may interpret the picture in a different way. So before we start with various rules of composition, I want to dwell upon aspect ratio, because before you start composing, we have to understand, or we have to know, what is our platform, where are we going to put our pictures, and each platform has their own image sizes. So aspect ratio is basically the ratio of the width to height. Normally in our cameras, we have an aspect ratio of 3:2. In all modern DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, even the film cameras, the 35mm film cameras had an aspect ratio of 3:2. Older cameras had an aspect ratio of 1:1 or 5:4 or 4:3. So aspect ratio is important. Once you know what aspect ratio that platform would support, then composition becomes an easier task. Like for example, the default aspect ratio of Instagram is 1:1. If you upload a picture from your mobile to Instagram, the default aspect ratio is 1:1. It is a square format. So now if you're shooting at 3:2 aspect ratio and composing to a 3:2 aspect ratio, then your images would be cropped if you upload to Instagram. So an understanding of the platform is very important. The aspect ratio of the platform is very important. Now, suppose you want to upload on TikTok. TikTok has an aspect ratio of 9:16. It is the same aspect ratio that is used by YouTube. YouTube uses an aspect ratio of 16:9, which is the horizontal version of this aspect ratio. So if you're uploading to TikTok, then you have to ensure that you compose in that aspect ratio. Otherwise, there'll be unnecessary space, unnecessary negative space in the image, and the photos may also get cropped. So rules of composition, I generally follow a twofold approach. One is the use of geometry, and the second is the use of psychology. The use of geometry in composition has a very long history. It mainly comes from paintings. In paintings, all the artists were using geometry to paint their pictures, and use of geometry in painting came to prominence, especially during the Renaissance period. That is the 16th to 17th century. That is the time when geometry in paintings were everywhere, in all paintings, from portraits to landscapes to everything. So it's very interesting how people use geometry in paintings, and that percolated to photography when the photographic process was initiated in 1829. So we'll start with design elements. Design elements are geometric tools which is used to compose in paintings, to web designs, and even photography. So by design elements, I mean the lines and shapes, the various lines and shapes. And lines can be again subdivided into these 5 types. There's another one, jagged lines, which I have not included here, which is very difficult to actually replicate in photography. So lines may be horizontal, lines may be vertical, there may be diagonal lines, and there may be curved lines. And curved lines is basically of 2 types. There's a simple curve, and there's a reverse curve. The reverse curve is also known as the arabesque. Actually, the term arabesque comes from the Arab world because of the calligraphy, their design, the unique design, where they use the inverted form of S. So each type of line has a different adds a different emotion or a different meaning to a photograph. Shape-wise, the most widely used shape is the triangle. Triangles and circles and rectangles and squares. Of these 4, triangles are the most widely used. In fact, during the Renaissance period, shapes like parallelograms were also used. But parallelograms used in photography, it is a very difficult thing to accomplish in real life photography. Using a parallelogram design is only possible when we shoot in a very controlled environment, like a studio photo shoot, when you shoot products. So we'll go into details into what these lines stand for. This is a picture by Andreas Grusky, who is a German photographer. This picture, called the Rhine 2, is layers of horizontal lines. And you'd be surprised, this is the most expensive photograph sold so far. This was sold for $4.3 million in 1999. It is a set of layers of horizontal lines, which the buyer found very restful and serene. So horizontal line gives you a very restful ambience to the scene. Another very powerful form of lines is the vertical lines. Vertical lines represent strength, stability, and they look very dignified. This is a photograph of a photographer called Guy Toll, who has been photographing the Utah Desert for the last 15 years. So he uses a lot of very strong vertical lines in his pictures, in his composition, to convey how he is feeling, how he's feeling in the desert environment. Diagonal lines are my favorite. Diagonal lines stand for dynamic, lively, and active. This is how I use diagonal lines in wildlife photography. Even if the subject is not diagonal, I would tilt my camera to create a diagonal angle so that I have a better so that I have a better composition in terms of the arrangement. In this picture, actually, this is a picture of a capped langur. This is shot in Gibbon Wildlife Sanctuary, and here the branch was not diagonal. I tilted my camera so that the picture became diagonal, so that I would have a more dynamic scene. This is another picture where I use the diagonal composition. This is a squirrel who's after the guavas in our guava tree. And this actually was a kind of a horizontal picture. I tilted the camera angle so that I had a diagonal line from one corner to the other corner to convey how I felt about the picture. These two set of pictures are another example of diagonal lines. The picture on the left has been shot at a very low shutter speed of 1/8 of a second, and as you can see, I have panned my camera from left to right, but towards the right, I move my camera diagonally so that I get those diagonal backgrounds. And similarly, here on the right, the leaves, I have photographed some backlit leaves, and I've ensured that they kind of pop out in a diagonal manner. You must have seen this picture everywhere. This is an example of a curve. Curves actually mean pleasing and charming. They have that quality. This is a picture by Charles Aurier, and oh, sorry, I'm very sorry. This is a picture by Charles Aurier, and this is in everyone's desktop and laptops. Whoever has used Windows will have this picture in his or her computer. So this is a simple curve, which stands for a pleasing and charming feel. And this is a reverse curve. You can see the S, the inverted S in the sand. This is a reverse curve. Reverse curves are very powerful, and it is one of the most abundant curve that you'll find in nature. Our human bodies are a collection of the reverse curves. If you ask any painter, they'll tell you that human body has the most number of reverse curves. This is again another example of reverse curve. This has been backlit by a flash on the right hand side of this leaf. This is a tabletop shot which I shot at home to emphasize the reverse curve of this leaf. And as you can see, the composition here is I have put a diagonal touch to it. So there are two elements here. It's diagonal as well as there's that reverse curve, which is also known as the arabesque. Lines can also be used to direct attention towards the main subject. This way of directing attention to the subject is called leading lines. Leading lines help the user, help the photographer to direct the attention of the observer or the audience towards the subject. This is a picture of a wood spider in Gibbon Wildlife Sanctuary. This is another picture where the lines lead towards the subject. This is another example of curve, more of an L-shaped curve leading to a subject. This is another curve that leads to a subject. These scenes are very common in Kaziranga Wildlife Sanctuary. Early in the mornings in December and January, you're going to find such scenes. The elephants and the tigers, especially, they do not like to walk on the wet and dewy grass. So they prefer to walk on the tracks created by the forest department. So now we'll be discussing the shapes. When it comes to shape, the triangle is the most used shape in both painting and in photography. Triangle conveys strength and it has a pleasing design, and it also means stability. Look at this painting. This is a painting by Reuben, and it's called Raising of the Cross. It is a Renaissance period painting, and you can see multiple triangles and diagonals. The most prominent, the first thing that you're going to see here is the diagonal. Can you see the diagonal, sir and madam?
Of course.
Okay, I'll just break it down for you.
Okay.
There, as you can see,
wonderful. It's really.
As you can see, there are three triangles. The three triangles in the composition, and the gaze, the line of gaze. The people are gazing towards Christ. There you can see these are leading lines. The artist is leading you towards the face of Christ here. And as you can see, the body of Christ is twisted towards to a reverse curve. You can see the curve, which is marked in green. So this is a very powerful method of composing using triangles. This is another painting by Vincent Rembrandt. You must have heard of Rembrandt. We still use his lighting patterns in films today. Bollywood or Hollywood or Tollywood, we still use his way of lighting subjects. So here also, can you see the leading lines and the triangles? Let me help you with a deconstructed image. As you can see, there are three triangles. And the leading lines, the leading lines are leading you to the book. This is an anatomy class which they are conducting by looking into their anatomy manuals. In order to see the triangles, the best way to look at these pictures is you close one eye and squint the other eye. then the triangles will become very visible.
Sir, actually, they are instructing the cadaver part which has been dissected, and the muscles, nerves are projected. So all students are, all viewers are asked to locate the lining of artery, vein, and nerve along with the flesh.
Yes,
this
exactly.
is what I'm thinking. Being a doctor, I thinking this is the cadaver part, and everybody is locating. And ultimately, the same thing is there on the book. So book
Yes,
is
sir.
also been directed by your arrows.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right, sir.
Exactly, sir. This is another painting by Rembrandt. It's known as the Jewish Bride. There, here again, you can see the triangle. It is one of the most used shape in painting as well as in photography. Here you will see that both the subjects are looking into opposite directions. This is done to balance the space. See, there is negative space on both sides of the subjects. So in order to balance the shape, in order to balance the space, the negative space, both the subjects look at different directions. This is a product shoot that I did, and this is where I use triangles to complement the cubical shape of the perfume. As you can see, it is a cubical shape. The perfume bottle is of cubical proportions. In order to complement that, I use triangles created by a few pieces of paper boards. This is a sunset scene in Disangmukh, which Disang is a tributary of the Brahmaputra. And here also you can see that the triangular shapes that I have included. Triangular shape will help you pull attention to that part of that image. This is a portrait session that I did with a singer, with a songwriter. And here also I have used triangular shape. And I have used the same strategy used by Rembrandt, where the two subjects are looking in two different directions. This has been done to balance the negative space. Since I have more or less centered the subjects are centered. So I had to make them look in two different directions. Here, the challenge was making the dog look in the other direction. So I asked one of my colleagues to have a biscuit in his hand and to wave it from the other direction so that the dog would look in that direction. I use curves and triangles in a lot in portraits. This is a portrait session with two lights, one on the left and one on the right. And here again, I've used curves and the triangular shape. This is again a composite of two triangles. The face is a triangle and the body is a triangle. So two inverted triangles balancing each other in this photograph. This is a portrait session. This is an indoor portrait session where we use one light and a bounce card, which is kept below the chin of the subject, so that the little light is bounced towards the subject. So one light portraits. This is again a portrait session where we ask the model to pose in a certain way to form triangles. As you can see, the line of sight, the way she looks at her hand, that forms the line and that completes the triangle. So triangles are very interesting, and it is one of the most easiest way to pose a person. In glamour photography also, we use triangles a lot. Asking a model to keep their hands on their hips gives us two triangles. And as you can see on the left picture, there is jagged lines. That is the temple background which has jagged lines. In order to complement those jagged lines, I asked them all to place both her hands on the hips so that we had two triangles below, so that the space is balanced. And on the same shoot, this is another two triangles complementing the almost triangular background temple shape. Coming to rectangles, rectangles are mostly used as frames in photography. In fact, the aspect ratio that we shoot at is itself a rectangle. Mostly, by default, it is a rectangle. So I use it as shapes. This is a photo by Steve McCurry, and this was shot in Calcutta. This is another photo by Steve McCurry where he has shot circles. Circles stand for completeness. As you can see, these people, they're sitting in a circular manner. This is another interesting picture. This is a picture by Robert Caputo. Robert Caputo was a founder of Magnum Photos. He was a war photographer, and he used a lot of shapes in his pictures. And he would use lines to connect two subjects. As you can see here, there are two subjects here. One is sitting in a, she's wearing a circular type of dress, and she has a triangular shape to her. And connecting her to the rest of the negative space is the shadow of the second dancer. And that too is, it's almost in a diagonal manner. This is another another circular composition by Steve McCurry. This was shot in Western India. This was the scene where there was suddenly a windstorm, and he saw these ladies gathering in a circle. And you can see the pots also, they represent two circles. This is a very old picture of Henry Cartier-Bresson, and he was a master in using shapes and S-curves. As you can see, his main subject is the man in the foreground who is looking down and is in a triangular position. If I deconstruct this for you, you can look at the S-curve, which is represented by the yellow line, and the subject has a triangular posture, and he is also placed in the rule of thirds, which we are going to discuss sometime later. And there is also the composition of golden triangles here. So masters like these, they do not use one rule of composition, they use multiple rules of composition. So let's come to the grids. Grids are another way of composing our pictures. What grid does is they divide the scene into various parts. The most common grid is the balance grid. Balance grid divides the scene into 4 equal parts. This grid is basically used when we want to center the subject. When we shoot passports, we shoot in a balance grid. Rule of third, you must have heard. Rule of third is one of the most used grids in photography, where the entire scene is divided into 9 equal parts. And then we have the golden ratio. Golden ratio is very unique. It is a product of the Renaissance period, where the frame is so divided that if you divide the longer side of the rectangle by the shorter side, you would get a ratio of 1.618. So this they call the golden ratio or divine proportion. They observed that this ratio was found in plants and even in our human body. The golden spiral is another representation of the golden ratio. The golden triangle is again another representation of the golden ratio. The golden triangle and the dynamic symmetry is a bit different. But dynamic symmetry is one of the most popular grids that is used in Hollywood cinemas nowadays. So we'll just get into how to compose using these grids. So these are portraits which I've done using balance grids, where the subject is centered. I would normally wait for the subject to strike a pose and see if it falls into some kind of shape. And on the picture to my left, this is a picture. This is a portrait of a Konyak hunter, a Konyak headhunter. So when I went to shoot him, when I went to his village to take his picture, there was a language barrier. He would not understand Hindi or Assamese or English. He spoke only his native tongue, which is the Konyak language. And from what I understood from the interpreter from the guide who went along with me, Konyak headhunters, they would headhunt and they would wear a brass head on their neck to give respect to the person who they killed. So in this case, this person headhunted 4 heads. So posing him was a difficult task. I never asked him to pose. In fact, he was very curious. He kept looking at my camera and the light that my guide was holding. The light the guide was holding was to the right of me. So he was pretty confused. He was pretty confused to what I was doing actually. And I shot this indoors, and it was a very dark scene. He was in his kitchen, and I didn't want too much distraction in the background. So I overpowered the light in the ambient light and shot with a flash. So this here I aimed for a diamond structure, that is 2 triangles. So 2 triangles comprising a diamond structure. And the portrait on the right, it is again a balance. It's again the balance grid composition. And here I have pushed the light in a diagonal way so that I get to make use of that negative space. This is a popular site here in Assam where during the harvesting season, this is composed in the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds divides the scene into 9 equal parts, and we try to place the subject in one of the points of intersection or along one of these lines. The caution here is when you use this rule, you have to be cautious that you don't leave too much negative space. I normally use rule of thirds when I when I know that I would be adding text to the picture. This is another early morning scene in Kaziranga where people were fishing just on the outskirts of Kaziranga. So here again, I use the rule of third grid. This is another instance where I had used the rule of third. This is the buffalo fight, which happens during Bihu. Nowadays, it is banned due to Animal Cruelty Act. So this was shot during Bihu. During our season, during our Bihu season, bulls are made to fight each other, and this photograph made a good candidate for a rule of third composition. This is another shoot that I did for a company, a calendar shoot. So this was the Durga Puja theme, and here again I placed the subject along one of the lines of the rule of thirds. So the rule of third, like I said, leaves a lot of negative space. You may like it, you may not like it. Normally, I use the rule of third only in such cases where I have another competing subject, so that that negative space is balanced out. This is the golden spiral. This is a method of composition which leaves a lot of negative space. I use it only when there is text to be included on top of the picture. Say product shoots, if I'm doing product shoots and they want to include text to on one side, then I'll use this. But in real life, I rarely use this rule. As you can see in these pictures, if those birds were not there, then the negative space is not balanced. There'll be too much negative space. Here again, this picture is successful because of the shape of the wave. Another old picture. This is again composed using the golden triangles. Golden triangles is a very simple grid. What happens is when you draw the diagonal connecting two ends of a rectangle and you put a perpendicular from the adjacent corner from both sides, you get two intersections. And the idea is to put your subject on or near that two intersecting points. This kind of composition creates a kind of tension, they say. It is not balanced, it is off balance. This kind of composition is said to be more dynamic in nature. It's used in portrait photography quite often. Models are made to pose like this. This is a picture I did for a young tabla player, and I use this rule. I placed those tablas on that intersection point, and this was shot at a very low shutter speed. It had a shutter speed of 2 seconds, and as you can see from that blur, the blur will draw your attention to the tabla. So now we come to the dynamic symmetric grid. This is a grid which was very popular during the Renaissance period. It is a derivative of the golden mean. So a rectangular frame, it is bisected by both the diagonals, and you draw perpendiculars on both the diagonals, and you end up with a structure like this. So this was used by a lot of sculptors and painters during the Renaissance period, and it is still used in Hollywood movies, and there are a lot of celebrity photographers who use this rule. Pablo Picasso, his painting, The Old Guitarist, was composed in this rule. As you can see, the structure, the shape, the position of the guitarist would conform to one of the lines. His leg here is parallel to this perpendicular. His hand on the guitar is in line with this thin line running across here. So this dynamic symmetric grid actually helps you balance the frame. There is very little unutilized negative space in such a composition. This is again very widely used for celebrity portraits. Subjects are posed, their leg positions, their hands, they are posed in such a way that the hands and legs are parallel to some line in this grid. This is a picture shot by Annie Leibovitz. She is one of the topmost celebrity photographers in US, and she's known for her very huge portraits of celebrities, of multiple celebrities, and they are all posed in this grid. Here's another example. Their hand position, the position of the legs, the way they tilt their head, everything is synced with a dynamic symmetry grid. So that was about grids. So I hope that was helpful. So if you have any questions,
excellent, excellent, Doctor, excellent.
Hello.
You are going well, Jyotishji, you are going well.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir. If there's any questions, we can take the questions now, or we can move forward, sir.
You can move forward.
Okay, sir. We'll move to framing, and we'll discuss frame within a frame. This is framing is a technique where the photographer tries to use the objects in the scene to frame his main subject. So what he does is he's basically using elements in the scene to frame his subject of interest. So this is framing or frame within a frame. Here the photographer uses the gap between a chain to frame his subjects. Here again, frame within a frame. The subject is framed by a subject which is in the foreground, and there are leading lines. Leading lines are giving us a sense of direction to which the subject is moving. This is another examples of frame within a frame, and here the photographer has used the circular design elements. This is again another example of frame within a frame, where the golden pyramid, the golden triangle is used, the rule of third is used, and also frame within a frame is used. In such cases, it is important that you get to a proper depth of field. If I were to shoot this image, I would shoot it at f4 or f5.6, so that the chaotic background does not distract me in any way. Another example of frame within a frame. African elephants. This is another example of frame within a frame. The frame is created by the trees in the foreground as well as the background. Rule of odds. Rule of odds is a very interesting photography composition techniques, which I mainly use in product photography. In wildlife photography, it is very difficult to replicate. It states that you have to shoot objects or subjects in odd numbers. So 1, 3, 5, 7, and up to 9 our mind can group. Beyond 9 subjects, our mind simply cannot group the subjects. So this is very widely used in product photography. Most product photographers would use this. As you can see here, this the best practice while using this rule of odds is we have to use it in conjunction with other rules, especially the grids. I would use it with a grid or a shape. Here in this case, the photographer has used the golden triangle, and he has created a shape, a triangular shape. As far as I'm concerned, this rule works best when you have 3 and 5 subjects. More than that, it becomes very difficult for the mind to process the rule. So 3 subjects, 5 subjects, it works great. Another picture where they have used lines, they have used shapes, they have used rule of odds. So multiple rules have been used here. A typical product photography shot where we shoot in the rule of odds. So here there's a diagonal element to it, there's a triangular form to it, and there's a rule of odds. So multiple rules have been used in the same photograph. Filling the frame. Filling the frame is another very interesting composition technique which we use. There are a lot of times when you visit places or we are traveling, we want to take a picture. There'll be a lot of unnecessary negative space, which can be and should be omitted while taking the final picture. Let me give you an example. Okay, this is a scene of the Bong Bong Falls. Bong Bong Falls is in Arunachal Pradesh. It's in an area called Shela Pass, and this waterfall is about 100 meters tall. It's a huge waterfall. So from the touristy point, this is what you will see. You will see a lot of negative space. There's a river below. There are electrical lines running across the frame. So the USP of this place is that there's a very nice rainbow at around 3 to 3:30 in the evening. So when I went there, I could see this scene. So and I took a picture. This is from the tourist location. But here your main subject is lost. The rainbow falls is lost. So what I did was I omitted the negative spaces that I did not require, and I focused only on the focal subject. I decided to fill the entire frame, entire aspect ratio of my sensor with only the waterfall and the rainbow. So this is what I achieved. I went down, I used a zoom lens, and at 200 mm, I shot this frame. So this is Bong Bong Falls in Arunachal Pradesh. So this is how you use a filling, use the filling the frame method of composition. You just remove all the negative space that you don't require. This is another filling the frame kind of a composition. This is a tree which is there in Kaziranga, and it has a very good texture to it. And there are electrical lines passing nearby, which are distracting. There are other shorter, smaller trees which are nearby, which do not add to the picture. So in order to get a good picture of this tree, I went real close and I excluded everything else. I shot only the tree. My objective was to create some kind of a shape. I saw a triangular shape here and I shot it. And there's a kind of a diagonal line from right to left. So this is what filling the frame is about. I'll give you another example. This is a early morning scene in a valley called Zuko Valley in Nagaland. This is a very popular trekking, hiking site nowadays. And this is what you will see from a normal perspective. If you from a 50 mm or 35 mm, this is what you're going to see. But Zuko Valley is known for its dapple lighting. The lighting is very dappled, and so what I did was, instead of shooting the entire valley like this, I focused only on certain parts of the valley which interested me. So I came up with a shot like this. So this is what I shot. Dapple lighting. There is that curve leading to that lit part of that valley. So in this way, you can remove all the negative space that you don't require. Okay, that was the geometry part of our presentation, and I want to dwell a little bit on the psychological part of composition in photography. So we'll try to understand a theory called Gestalt theory of visual perception. This theory tries to explain how our mind forms groups. If we look at a particular scene, our mind will try to form groups based on shape, form, color, size. So this theory has actually, it was formulated by Germans, by German researchers in 1920, and it is now widely used by photographers, by designers to create compelling designs. So there are various principles to this theory. The popular principles are similarity, continuation, closure, proximity, figure ground, and parallelism. We'll be going through examples of all these principles. Similarity states that all the elements would be grouped on the basis of same kind of shape, or same kind of color, or same kind of form. So this is a grouping based on similarity. Chairs that have same color, same shape, same texture, same glossy thing. So this is a grouping based on similarity. If you look at this example, our eyes will be able to group on the basis of colors. Our eyes will form shapes, different triangles and diagonals on the basis of colors. So how do we use this in photography? This is an example of similarity. All similar shaped objects are grouped together. And if you close one eye and squint the other eye, you will again find a diagonal running from left to right, from left bottom to right. This picture again is based on similarity. There are three groupings here, three layers here. All the layers are grouped on the basis of similarity. They have similar, each layer has a similar color or similar light to it. This example also, subjects are grouped on the basis of similarity. Similarity in terms of color, similarity in terms of shape. In real life, you can compose like this. The yellow moss is considered as one group, and it will lead you to that gate. Opposite of similarity is anomaly. Anomaly is a difference in the entire scene. And when we compose an anomaly, our eyes would be drawn to that anomaly. So anomaly is a very powerful tool when you want to make your subject stand out. Here in this scene, this is a late evening scene shot at very high ISOs. You can see the Griffon vulture is the anomaly here. This is another photo by Steve McCurry in India during Holi. The green person is the anomaly here. And our eyes would be drawn to that green person. And look at a composition. There's a diagonal to that composition. This is another example of anomaly. This is again shot by Steve McCurry. Among all the blue cards, there's these two nurses who are the anomalies here. So our eyes would instantly be attracted to the anomalies here. And composition wise, it's on the rule of third. There's square shapes, there's a triangular shape, there's a little diagonal in the form of that handle. So very interesting. So anomalies make things very interesting. Gestalt has another principle called continuations. It says that our minds like to follow paths leading somewhere. So design elements like lines and curves, which we discussed some time back, they help direct the viewer. So let's look at an example here. If we look here, though here there are two different kind of dots in terms of color, there's a red dot and black dots. If you look, our eyes would be drawn to the horizontal line irrespective of color, and our eyes would follow the curved line irrespective of color. So that is how continuation works. So in use, this is how it was used. The bridge acts like leading lines. It leads to the subject here. The bridge acts like leading lines. It leads to the subject, and the subject, and it leads to that guitar. So now you see that this is a very popular shape that we see. I mean, we have been seeing since our birth. It is a W. So when our mind sees such shapes, it instantly recognizes it and would follow the shape. And there's the diagonal line created by the guitar. There's that triangular shape created by the person's stance. So a wonderful picture by Mr. Joe McNally, who's a Nat Geo photographer. Closure is another principle which is very interesting. This is a principle which involves the viewer to participate, which calls for the viewer to participate in the picture. Can you read this thing? Sir, madam, can you read this?
Yes, can you complete reading the sentence? This is Blitz at work. Yes.
You see, even if I have misspelled the thing, our mind are so powerful that it completes or fill up the blanks themselves by itself. So so how do we use it? We use it in design like this. See this, the football on the right, it is not complete, but our mind will complete it. So when we use designs like this, it calls for the viewer's participation in the design. And the design towards the left is a WWF design, though the panda is not completed, but our mind will fill up the blanks by itself. So we are involving the viewer to complete the design. So use in photography, what we do is,
sir, is it also a stencil designing?
Huh?
Is it also a stencil designing?
Stencil designing can be done using this technique.
The same thing, yeah.
Yes. So basically, it involves the user to participate in the design or in the photograph. So while taking pictures, as you can see here, the plant is not well lit from top to bottom, but our minds are so powerful that it will complete it, even if it is dark. So this kind of a picture calls for the user to, the viewer or the audience to participate in the picture. So most photographers nowadays, they do a lot of cropping of the heads, cropping of the limbs, intentionally to involve the viewer to participate. For example, this is a very famous photograph by Joe McNally. He's a lifestyle photographer for Net Geo, and he would intentionally crop arms like this. He would crop arms and heads like this to involve the viewer so that they can participate in completing this this design. Here again, it's composed on the rule of third. There's interesting triangles that is created. There's a little diagonal here. So this is another picture where we intentionally crop up the head to call for the viewer's participation. This is another picture where the head is intentionally cropped up so that the viewer can participate in completing this picture. This is a portrait of our boxer, Shiva Thapa. This is another picture. As you can see, the face on the left of the subject towards our left, it is not complete, but our minds are powerful enough to complete the picture for us if it has one side of the face. So this is a very interesting way to involve your audience. Proximity is a Gestalt principle which states that if things are too close together, if the background or the foreground is very close to the subject, the mind will perceive it as a whole, as a group. So for example, we can see here this example, these are basically the designs of many people standing up in a curved manner. But our mind will perceive this to be a tree, because it is a very popular shape that we have seen in our since our birth. So mind will revert back to an image that we already know. So the logo of Unilever is designed in this way. It is used in design. See, the Unilever design is composed in this way. In photography, what we do is, while taking a picture, we have to ensure that the background or the foreground is not too near the subject, or otherwise the viewer will it'll group the background on the foreground as one. So here in this case, it looks as if the tree is coming out overhead. So in such a case, we have to be wary of our backgrounds and foregrounds, and we have to use depth of field to blur the backgrounds. Figure ground relationship is widely used in painting. What this states that we have to separate our figure, that is our subject, from the ground. That is, ground may be a background or foreground. So this is very widely used in paintings and even in photography. So let's take an example. This series of paintings is by Magunta Dayakar, who is from Hyderabad. He's a brilliant painter, and as you can see, light face, dark background. So there has to be a contrast. Figure ground relationship states that if a subject is there, then there has to be a difference from the background. The difference may be in terms of light, the difference may be in terms of contrast, the difference may be in terms of movement. So this is a difference in terms of light levels. So here the subject is lit, but the background is dark. Here is another instance where the background is dark, but the subject is lighter. Here is another instance where the subject is dark and the background is light. To build that contrast, there has to be a figure ground difference. This is another example where the background is light and the subject is dark. So that difference has to be there to make the subject pop out of the scene. Another example where bright background, dark subject. Another example where the subject is dark, the background is light. Another example where the subjects, the heads are dark, the background is light. This photo is of Raghurai sir, and here again the background is lighter and the subject is darker. Another picture from Raghurai sir, lighter background, darker subjects. So that difference has to be there. This is a figure ground relationship based on movement. As you can see, the foreground and the background, it is completely still, but the subject is in motion. So the person in white, he's the main subject and he's in motion. So figure ground relationship here is based on the motion of the figure and the ground. Another example of figure ground relationship due to motion. Here the main subjects are still and the commuters are moving. This is a Raghurai photo, very old photo of Raghurai sir. It's Churchgate railway station photo. This is another photograph, and as you can see, the main person reading here is a person who's standing up and reading a newspaper here. And there's another group of people who are sitting down and reading things. And the entire scene is in the movement, except the trains. So this is a figure ground separation. Your figure has to be separated from the background and the foreground. This is a very old photograph of Henri Cartier-Bresson, and here the foreground and the background is still and the subject is in motion. So that creates the figure ground relationship. So finally, we come to parallelism. Parallelism is when elements parallel to each other are grouped together. Here, if you see, only the bars parallel to each other would be grouped. So in this case, these 4 bars on the left and these 4 on the right would be grouped together. The one on the bottom and one on the extreme left would not be grouped to any group. So how this translates in photography is you get to compose like this. Here you can see the valleys where the light hits are parallel to each other and they are considered as a group. So such pictures make very compelling photographs. So that was my take on composition. I hope it didn't turn out to be very long. There were some more things to cover, but I thought it would become very, too long for me to finish. So I hope you found this useful. And if there's any question, I'll take them now. So sir, if you have any questions, I'll take them now.
Hello, so you have completed your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We were just waiting for the.
Okay, I said on the microphone.
I saw the thank you slide at the last moment. Just okay. I was waiting. Okay. So I was waiting for the instructions of our Dr. Pawan Sharma ji.
Okay.
I think he is yes.
Excellent sir, Agnihotri sir.
जी
आपके लेक्चर से एक विचार आ गया. If you kindly permit, आप ज्योतिष जी और सयनिका जी एक कोर्स प्लान करें ऑनलाइन. हमारे ऑनलाइन इंस्टीट्यूट में हम उस कोर्स को लॉन्च करेंगे on photography, particularly on photography for herb or actual, we will do course for photography. Whoever is interested on that online institute, IRES, International Interdisciplinary Institute for Research, Education and Skills. So we will launch that course. We will talk with you. Please finalize a course of 6 lectures of 30 minutes so we can immediately launch this on our platform. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Jyotish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Now
you, sir.
stage is yours.
It's a great
Mahavir,
pleasure that
namaskar.
it's a great pleasure that you got a wonderful thought and that our two experts of photography as addressed today resulted in such a positive manner that our society can go for a small course of photography, say certificate course or diploma course with the help of these great mentor. He's a wonderful mentor. I think he touched all the area which I or any other person cannot think of that. Wonderfully, what I found that out of his presentation, one thing he made himself very clear that what it's my statement under commas I can say, I saw your interest in diagonal line photography.
Yes, sir.
This I repeat as you admitted, and I found it out of the your so many pics. I also understand that there are two things. One is photography out of your presentation, and the other one is the say portraits,
yes, sir.
made by the painters or the artist.
Yes, sir.
What I was thinking repeatedly that the other sector can also be touched in the form of today's reference.
Okay, sir.
What is that? That we do know, we all accepted that the photo camera was not there during the era of Dwapar Yuga or Shri Krishna's time.
Yes,
But
sir.
the style he was standing,
Yes.
that can be also put under the triangular.
Yes, sir.
His crown was triangular. His murli is also can put your framework. I was just making this thing.
Yes,
The,
sir, exactly.
the one leg is straight, the other leg is on toes.
Yes, sir.
Again, when he is having the annuput on his hand,
Yes,
that
sir.
is again triangular. When
Yes.
he is performing, say this Radha Krishna Nritya,
Yes, sir.
again it can take your words in the form of the say triangle and all that. And
Yes.
not only that, when he goes for the Maharas. So
Yes.
this sector in the reference of today's Janmashtami
Yes, sir.
made me so many times repeatedly stuck in my mind that why can't we go for we were talking about the power of Picasso and other photographs done by
Yes, sir.
UK, US, UK and all that. Of
Yes,
course,
sir.
while also now I will give ours one, like
Yes, sir.
the standing style on the crease by Sir Sunil Gavaskar.
Yes, sir.
Draw the line.
Yes.
Draw the line and see the fun.
It's triangular. Yes, sir.
The style of Dhoni standing behind the wickets.
Yes, sir.
Double triangle.
Yes, sir.
I
Diamond.
was just making the same way. The photo finish step of Mr. Anil Kumble when he throws the ball.
Yes, sir.
Double triangle, triple triangle.
Yes,
And
sir.
again, how you missed Mr. our great person Neeraj Chopra when he threw
Yes,
the
sir.
javelin. What
Yes, sir.
happened? That was had it been quoted in your address, we have proud of it that we are Indians.
I'll
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
I showed you this thing as a thought that because I little bit touch the photography and
Okay.
the pleasure is this that why can't we include our Kumbh Mela's structure? When
Yes, sir.
crores of persons are coming in Allahabad and Haridwar, how can
Yes,
we
sir.
maintain? Our Mansa Devi, it is again triangular.
Triangular.
Then
Yes,
it is
sir.
again triangular.
Triangular.
You see the matter. If you
Yes.
go for the Daksh Prajapati temple, it is again triangular.
Yes,
And
sir. It is
your
triangular.
framework just means made me so emphatically prepared that how can I judge myself, our eyes, that how this photography in the terms of the line, spiral and all that, especially when Lord Krishna stands, see the fun. And when he's giving the, say, discourse of Gita to Arjuna, what were the angles?
Yes, sir, trying it, yes.
It's a wonderful sector. When you touch it, it will become 200 times potentize your whole presentation what you made today. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. You opened all eyes, and now onwards I see how the parrot sits, how the crow sits, how the pigeon sits. Everywhere I visited the whole of your presentation time, that how can I see under your rule 3 or under your spiral lining or your reverse lining or your straight lining. I really enjoyed your address. So thank you so much. Please be remain in us and make the dream of Dr. our Pawan Sharmaji's fulfilled. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
So now it is already 9:30 and our participants are very less in number. So 2 dignitaries which are there as our regular ones, I would like to have some say blessings from them. Dr. Sophie Saab is with us by this time. Dr. G. Sophie, please say something on today's webinar's topic and our presenters. Thank you so much.
Hello, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Sir, it was a great time hearing the talk of the last presenter, second presenter, because he gave us about these shapes and how we make, how we see things in a beautiful way. That is the basic aim of a photographer. When we see anything, it should look beautiful. In Arabic, we say, God is beautiful, so he likes beauty. Similarly, a photographer tries to catch the beauty of a thing. Here, but in Ayush, where we will utilize these concepts, that is very important. And our ancestors have used these concepts very well. While writing on the palm leaves, they decorated it in such a way that it looked beautiful, as if it was they had these concepts. Basically, we are analyzing these concepts. Whenever we try to make a beautiful thing, it gets a shape of a triangle or a rectangle or a cylinder, whatever, or a vertical. It gets the shape there only. In Arabic way, we have the calligraphy, the greatest curves which we use. And it looks fine when we are writing certain things. Similarly, when we talk of Ayush, we need advertisements for our work. There we may need these the best photographs for disseminating our works, so that people can see it at once and it looks beautiful. Secondly, when we talk of research, the people in the manuscripts, they say we have to have certain histopathological figures in this ratio. And it was very much coincidental. They say 3:6 ratio, which was like a golden grid, or what we say the pi ratio. And because it looks beautiful, they ask us among the same ratios. Similarly, when we see the nature, whenever we see, say, for example, in the Unani medicine, the first book which was written about plants, it was Discorides, the Materia Medica, in 130 BC. And he has produced the pictures of the plants. And when we see it today, almost they are framed like these things. So we say that the making things beautiful appeases eyes, appeases mind. So that was the aim of this photograph. But in Ayush, our aim is to see the nature, see the things in their real meaning. And then when something gets deranged, some dosha gets deranged, Prakriti may have got imbalanced because of certain environmental factors, we try to balance it. And this balancing, when we say in nature, we are trying to balance things, that is, we are trying to see things in a beautiful way. And I think this is the message we Ayush people should get from the lecture, especially the second lecture, which I was hearing with interest. Thank you, sir, for this delight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very kind of you. You just touched the real area to which we belong. We belong Ayush, and we are always in need of the good photographs for the greater sake of the identification of so many herbs. Now, and thanks for your all suggestions. Now, before I invite Dr. C.P. Sharmaji and our respected Dr. Domaji, I've got a very new person amongst us, Mr. Mahavirji. So I would like to invite him for his comment, because he is, I think, joining for the first time. You please let me have some introduction in Hindi or English, and also put your say,
good evening
number.
and wish you
Good evening.
happy Janmashtami. Myself, Mahavir Garg. I am also related to Ayurveda, and I am
Thank you.
going to manufacturing some Ayurvedic herbal based products for diabetic care and heart wellness, cholesterol and BP related product. Already Dr. Mr. Pawan Sharma knows me.
Okay, okay.
I am newly coming in with your team.
Thank you so much. That's why I found that you are even with on video. I found that it is the right time to invite you. You please put your say mobile number and ID, mail ID, if at all it is not there.
Can you note down?
I can, yes, sure.
9300
9300, yeah.
50
50
4500
4500.
and my
Okay.
mail ID is magic0india
that I will get. You can put in chat box. And you belong to Kolkata itself?
No.
The place where you belong?
Myself belongs to Camways Healthcare, my company name, and my product name is Magic Zero.
Hey, please.
Place Indore.
Indore, that's what I'm asking. Indore. Okay. Thank you.
And you are Mr.?
Myself, Professor Dr. V.K. Agnihotri from Haridwar, Uttarakhand.
Okay. It is very holy place and natural.
Okay. We are residing there for last 40 years.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome in our city.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So kind of you.
Okay.
Great to have your participation today. Thank you. So, well, now I will request Dr. C.P. Sharma, sir, to throw some your good ideas on today's webinar subject, that is the photography, being a World Photography Day. Dr. D.P. Sharma, sir, please join and give some your remarks, suggestions, and informations, whatever with you, with a special reference to our herbal photography.
जी सर.
Namaskar.
सर नमस्कार सर.
नमस्कार बताइए.
आज का जो भी सेशन रहा सर, मैं पार्शियली इसको ऑब्जर्व कर पाया, क्योंकि मैं भी अभी वायरल से सफर कर रहा हूँ.
अरे हमारा भी जी.
हमारा पूरा आयुर्वेद या ब्रह्मांड साकार और निराकार दो चीजों पर आधारित है.
जी.
जो साकार, जहाँ भी हम मंदिर में कभी दर्शन करने जाते हैं, तो हमें ऐसा लगता है कि वो मूर्ति हमारी ओर देख रही.
बिल्कुल सही. राइट.
तो ये जो फोटोग्राफी है, यह हमारे, चाहे हमें हर्बल स्टडी के लिए या हमें कोई प्रेजेंटेशन देना हो आयुर्वेद कंसेप्ट को लेकर, तो हमारा फोटोग्राफिकल आइडिया भी उसमें हमारे फोकस के ऊपर कंसाइज हो
जी.
ये हम इस तरह के उसके माध्यम से अपने सेंट्रल फोकस को प्रेजेंट करने का प्रयास कर सकते हैं. इसमें हमारे दोनों वक्ताओं ने, जिसमें दूसरे नंबर पे जो प्रेजेंटर रहे, जिन्होंने अपनी विषय वस्तु रखी, बड़ी बारीकी से हर फोटोग्राफ का हर एंगल से, चाहे वो ट्रायंगली, चाहे वो पैरेलली, सर्किल में, कर्व्ड में, कोई ना कोई
पर्टिकुलर सब्जेक्ट को फोकस कर रही है, वो हमारा ज्ञानवर्धन कर रही है। तो जैसे ही जैसे हमें कोई ड्रग का फोटोग्राफ देना है और हमें फोकस करना है कि उसकी रूट उसका एक्टिव प्रिंसिपल है और उसका फ्रूट उसका एक्टिव प्रिंसिपल है, तो हमें उस पौधे में इस तरह के संदेश जनरेट करते हुए उसका फोटोग्राफ प्रस्तुत करना है कि इसकी बार्क हमें यूजफुल है हमारे लिए, या फल है, या फूल है, या रूट है। तो इसमें हमारी जो फोटोग्राफी का अभी हम क्या करते हैं, एज ए होल प्लांट को दिखाते हैं। उस होल प्लांट में हम उस प्लांट का फिजिकली दिखा देते हैं, परंतु अब हमें रस गुण वीर विपाक या उसका जो एक्टिव प्रिंसिपल हम कहाँ से निकाल रहे हैं, जैसे हमें रूट से निकालना है तो फोकस करें हम रूट पर। तो वो हमारा ट्रायंगल, मान लीजिए हमने ट्रायंगल ही पेश करना है तो हम रूट की तरफ उसका वो रखें और बेस रखें पूरा है। दूसरा, हमें हमारे जो द्रव्यगुण के वैद्य हैं या द्रव्यगुण के जो डिपार्टमेंट है, उस द्रव्य गुण में फोटोग्राफी का और वन औषधि अनुसंधान में जो हर्बल स्टडी है, वन औषधि अनुसंधान में इस तरह की फोटोग्राफी हमारे लिए बहुत ही उपयोगी और आवश्यक सिद्ध हो सकती है। जहां तक डिप्लोमा की बात है, एक अच्छी पहल होगी यह डिप्लोमा भी बीएमएस को ही कराया जाए, तो कम से कम वो जब एमडी करे द्रव्य गुण में तो अच्छी फोटोग्राफी भी कर सकते
जी।
और उसका कल जब उसका प्रेजेंटेशन आएगा या कोई ड्रग की आइडेंटिटी या ड्रग, तो वो फोटोग्राफी के पूरे नियम को ध्यान रखते हुए फोटोग्राफ्स प्रस्तुत करें। तो जो बेसिक रहेगा वो हमारा आयुर्वेद रहेगा और उसका जो संदेश होगा फोटोग्राफी के माध्यम से वो हमारा एक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ द ड्रग रहेगा। तो ये इस तरह का हम एक उसमें जो डिजाइन कर सकते हैं जो कोर्स फोटोग्राफी का, उसमें हमें ये फोकस करना होगा कि हम चाहें हमारे ये फोटोग्राफर और हमारी सोसाइटी के माध्यम से हम ऐसे ड्रगों का देते हैं। आजकल ड्रग वो कर रहे हैं, एमआर प्रेजेंटेशन करता है, पर कुछ कंपनियों ने इस तरह की डिजाइनिंग की हुई है कि मान लीजिए ये पिपली है था, तो पिपली को उन्होंने क्या कहा, पिपली के 2 गुण या अमृता है तो उसमें एंटीऑक्सीडेंट कर दिया। अब हम एंटीऑक्सीडेंट उसके रूट का या उसका सत्व है, गिलोय का सत्व है, तो हम कोशिश करें उसके स्टेम को और स्टेम के इंटरनल स्ट्रक्चर को, जहां से वो एल्कलॉइड हमारा आ रहा है, उसको फोकस करते हुए हम उसको फोटोग्राफी के माध्यम से प्रेजेंट करने का प्रयास करें, तो शायद हम लोग अपना उद्देश्य परक प्रेजेंटेशन उस ड्रग के लिए बना सकते हैं। हमारी जो हर्बल स्टडी रही, बॉटनिकल स्टडी रही, बहुत अच्छी और डीप रही है। चाहे उन्होंने उस टाइम घोषित कर दिया कि ये ब्रश है तो ब्रश है, परंतु वहां हम ड्रग की प्रॉपर्टी का या ड्रग की जो शाश्वत प्रॉपर्टी कहते हैं, अनादि से जो चला आ रहा है कि आंवला ये करेगा, आंवला रसायन है, वय स्थापन करेगा, तो कर रहा है, तो उस वय स्थापनीय व्यवस्था में रसायन गुण कैसे ज्यादा उसमें प्रभावी है, अम्ल गुण की वजह से है या कोई और कारण है, उसकी पेरिफेरी में कौन कौन से सेमी एल्कलॉइड हैं, सब जो पूरा उसका कंटेंट है उसमें भी फोकस करें अपन ऐसे ही फोटोग्राफी के माध्यम से। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ दोनों प्रेजेंटर्स को ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं और विश्वास है कि इसी तरह के विषय पवन जी और आप लाते रहेंगे, जिससे आयुर्वेद का उन्नयन और उपब्रंगण होता रहेगा। इस विश्वास के साथ धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू सर, धन्यवाद बहुत बहुत आपके सजेशन का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। One thing you pointed out very positive in our thinking that such type of diploma course can be started and recommended rather by our society, independent society. along with your suggestion, I can add one more thing, that since the cameras, in especially the digital photography, has made the things very soft, easygoing, and means very easy to handle. I think students of botany department, I mean, maybe up to +2 level, BSc level, or MSc level, and the students of mass communication and the students of tourism department, because they all use the camera. So using them by their tour or their concept, we can get our hearse be more and more visualized with a great photography if the importance of the hearse, or if the sites where they are going to visit be captured by their photography skill, be favorable in future for our announcement of ICE department. So your suggestion, the BM students BM student, if they are going to go for PG in the be of great value. At the same time, we have got different sectors, say Panchakarma sector, our tourism department, our mass communication department. They are of equally value to help our department. This is my opinion session. Thank you so much.
एक मिनट और लूंगा सर।
लेने ही होगा, जब हमने बोला
नहीं
हमने
सर,
बोला तो आपको आना ही है।
हमारे यहाँ डॉक्टर दास साहब थे, वाइस चांसलर जीवाजी यूनिवर्सिटी ग्वालियर। बेसिकली वो बनारस से थे। इथिनोबॉटनी पर उनका बहुत अच्छा काम था, इथिनोबॉटनी। और ऑस्ट्रेलिया और न्यूजीलैंड में इथिनोबॉटनी वाले आयुर्वेद की पोस्टों पे बैठे, बिकॉज ऑफ उसमें पूरा का पूरा आयुर्वेद उन्होंने बता दिया उनको। हमारे बीएमएस और एमडी द्रव्यगुण को पता ही नहीं पड़ा उस पोस्ट का। तो हम चाह रहे हैं कि हमारे, भले ही हमारे साथ इथिनोबॉटनी भी जुड़े, या इथिनोबॉटनी का हल्का सा पार्ट हमारे द्रव्यगुण में जुड़ना चाहिए। जी ओके।
तो जब विद्वान बैठे हैं तो यही सब तो डिस्कशन आके हमें और रेक्टिफिकेशन मिल जाएगा कि वेयर टू मूव, to whom we should involve. So thank you very much for your kind suggestions and also clarification. And हम चाहेंगे हमारे today's 2 guest speakers, out of 2 guest speakers, our Jyotish Datta ji is still with us. So I would like to have some feedback from him, as he has seen and noticed the discussion after his presentation. So for 1 minute or 2, if anything you would like to add on for our discussions, point of view and suggestion, it will be highly obliged. So sir, please, Dr. Jyoti Datta ji.
Sir, actually, while I was in Guwahati University, I was doing my MBA there. I had friends in the botany department, and they would ask me to come with them, and we would go to a very remote forest in Arunachal to get pictures of certain ferns and other plants which he had an interest in. I used to go there, and I used to take pictures for him. Then we were using analog cameras, and there again I saw that there were a lot of species of plants which he had not seen before. He was a botany student, but he had not seen before. So we spent a lot of time taking pictures. And what sir suggested involving mass comm students, tourism students, I think that is a very good idea, because mass communication students, they have a course where they use that camera, where they learn to use the camera, and they learn to use lights. And in forested areas, you need just these 2 understanding: how to use your camera and how to operate with an external light. Because while I was documenting this plant species, I realized that in forest areas, when there is a very huge canopy, thick canopy, there is very little light. So in order to get good pictures, you need to have knowledge of external light source, like small flashes. Sir, I was doing rescue photography for WTI also, Wildlife Trust of India, and we used to go to forested area which is very dark. There's no light. So I think if you give a training, you have to give training on lights also, how to use small external lights, because your torches won't work. The torch, the hiking torches will give you a different color tone. So you have to have proper white balance flashes, which you have to use in that kind of an environment where light is low. So I guess I think it was a very good suggestion. Using mass communication students, that was a very good suggestion. It's a very good idea, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Really, you got the point. And when you appreciated this thing, our angle was the same, because those persons or those departments who are dealing and playing with the cameras, they can better support us, or they can better execute the training which will be given by our this planned syllabus. As you all know that we used to view the Discovery Channel, we used to do the wildlife photography, and we see how costly cameras they were using, how enriching their lives when the camera person and all these adventurous persons are involving. They are going deep to the wild animals, aquarious animals, and again on fast or taking 6 leaps. That very tough life is there. So not involving that angle, we can also make a small trip where our herbs are situated. And one more thing, as a matter of involvement, is came in my mind, which I missed before my previous address, that you would have also and definitely would have used one very important picture, that is our Sherpa Tenzing Norgay on Mount Everest. That would have gone tangles and tangles. I was just missing how I will say you afraid me of that, Vinitji, how I will speak when you have done so well. So then onwards I got the point that how I am supposed to stand in front of you. That is the historical 29th of May 1953, when Sherpa was hoisting the Indian flag on top of the world in that way. And that how many tangles are there? It is up to you to decide and project. So I do hope that when next time we will meet, our suggestions and our demanded pictures might be framed in your frame, so that we will be in position to see. Thank you so much. Thank you for your suggestion.
Thank you so much, sir.
So, Dr. Pawanji, I think we have taken the views of all the present dignitaries of today's meeting. Miss Momita Sharma, though she is of our team member, if she is interested to say something on photography as a very vital subject, she also can.
She is very fond of photography, and she is also mobile photography expert.
I do agree.
Momita Sharma.
because I know ladies are always not only interested for photography, but also crazy to have a good photograph. Otherwise, they will delete it. So 1.7 million in per second. The photography is 1.7 second photography. Something you have
1.72 million.
1.72 million. So,
trillion, sir.
Trillion, sir. So, ma'am, Momita Sharma, please say a few words on today's subject. To your webinar, rather. Are you here? Oh, she is not. She is not catching.
I hope she is not here there.
She's name is.
No problem, sir.
No
Tomorrow is the very important.
Okay, I am returning back the platform to you, Dr. Pawan Sharma ji, and for rest of the proceedings.
Thank you all. Tomorrow is very important webinar for Ayurveda, because new bill has come to change the definitions, drug, medical devices and cosmetics. So now our future is basically dependent on that bill. New drug, medical device and cosmetic bill. So please attend. Ranjit Puranik from Dudhpapeshwar, Dr. Katiyar from Imami, Dr. Ramanathan from Sitaram Ayurved, Managing Director, Dr. Naveen Gupta from UK, Dr. Suren Chaudhary. Everybody will guide us on the legal consequences of new bill. And we have to make the memorandum and then submit to the government before 23rd. So I would like to request Agnihotri sir, Mahadev Har, to write the memorandum right from the beginning of the speaker. Don't worry, I will make it typed. I will make it typed. Don't type it. Please send a photo of that written complete sentence. So we will type. So it will be, we will save our time. We will save our time. This is my request. So please write that memorandum right from the beginning. So we will be able to compile important points and we will submit to the government for our as a memorandum. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Good night to all. Sophie Saib, good night.
So at the time of closing, I would just like to extend our regards to Professor B.P. Sharma sir, Dr. Pawan Kumar Sharma ji, Professor Guruji C.V. Jha sir, Mr. Sachin Awasthi, Dr. Jagdishwar Doma ji, Dr. Madhu Sharma ji, Dr. C.P. Sharma ji, Dr. G. Sophie ji, Vaid Rajan Patankar ji, Sai ji, and our Dr. Miss Momita Sharma ji, Dr. Dinesh Kumar Das ji, Mr. Mahavir ji, and our guest speakers, both the guest speakers, Madam Sayanika Borah ji and Dr. Jyotish Datta ji, for their great contribution for today's International Day of Photography. With all their inputs, they all made us very sound as far as this the knowledge of this field is concerned, and we do hope that they will always be with us as and when we will be in need of their suggestions, their knowledge. So thank you all. Thank you very much. It is very late. It's just going to say 10. So thank you so much. Our regards and our greetings to all the. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Good night. This meeting was live on YouTube, so please circulate that link to maximum.